Sadly, we were victims of an RV hate crime. It is with sadness that we have to share what happened to us along our journey towards Florida. But let me first say, we were so grateful for so many things that went right and saved us from what could have been an absolutely awful crash and potential life-damaging event. Stay tuned to the end to hear some of the things that saved us from disaster and might help save you as well.
Let's begin with how this all went down. We put in a long first day of driving, leaving Canada towards Florida. We were up at 5 a.m. and on the road by 7:30 a.m. and we drove until 9 p.m. when we were both feeling like we could no longer drive safely and really needed a break. This is when we saw a sign for a rest area in Tennessee and decided to pull over and grab a bit of sleep before heading on. We parked in the RV truck area, clearly labeled for both RVs and trucks, and immediately went to bed, as we were totally drained from the excitement of the preparations to leave and of the long day of driving itself.
When we awoke, we did our usual walk around the truck and the trailer, checking that our tires and bikes and hitches and everything was good, that nothing seemed out of order, so that we would continue on a safe trip for both ourselves and everyone else driving down the road. A short while down the highway, we heard a bang when we had to brake, and then again when we accelerated. Now, on high alert, we listened and heard it again. And immediately looked for a safe place to pull over, and luckily, we were near a store parking lot off the main highway.
Luckily it's early morning, so it's not busy.
When we got out of the truck and walked around, we looked at the tires, suspension, etc., didn't see anything wrong. Then, at the hitch, we noticed what the problem was. Someone had actually removed our hitch pin, and the entire hitch had started to slide out of the receiver. This is where it normally would sit. Now we know that it had been removed and not just fallen out on its own because it had a good sized clevis pin, which can't just fall out on its own. It's difficult enough to pull that out by hand when we wanted to remove the pin ourselves.
We had heard that sometimes bad things can happen at rest stops, but this was the first time we ever experienced it ourselves. We heard that sometimes truckers get angry at RVers stopping at rest stops because some of them feel that it's more for them and that an RV is trying to get a free campsite and that we're taking up their spot. Now, I know that there are a lot of great people out there, and I have a lot of respect for truckers and what they do. There was a time in my job where I was running an overhead crane unloading 30-ton coils of steel on and off of trucks. I know what truckers do, and I give them a lot of space on the road. I signal advance to notify them of my actions, and I never cut close in front of them. I respect the loads they carry and the long, tedious days of driving they do. I know that most of them are wonderful, caring people and professional drivers. Sadly, one angry individual this night was not so respectful of us. It did something that was extremely dangerous and could have potentially caused a serious accident that could not only have damaged our equipment, but possibly injured and killed us and others. Be aware, RVers, that this hate crime can happen.
Now, let us tell you some things that saved us from disaster and that might help you if, God forbid, you are ever in a similar situation. First off, we know the sounds of our truck and trailer, and we pulled over as quickly and safely as possible to investigate when we heard an unusual sound. If we had continued driving and ignored the change in the sound, we would likely have had a lot of damage.
Next, we had our safety chains crossed under our hitch and tight enough that they were supporting the hitch as it slid out, preventing it from sliding out that last 1 inch that would have detached us completely and created a potentially catastrophic situation. If our chains had been looser, we would not have stayed hitched, and the crossing of the chains under the hitch supported some of the weight as it began to detach.
We did have the emergency brake cable attached as well, but the safety chains held us together enough that the cable didn't even activate our brakes. In the parking lot, we had to detach the trailer from the truck, but it wasn't quite as easy as usual, since the hitch was partly out and the chains were under tension. We jacked up the tongue enough to remove the weight from the hitch. Then we moved the truck back and forth a half inch at a time and raised and lowered the jack until the ball came loose and we had enough slack in the chains to detach fully.
We didn't have a spare pin, nor a large enough bolt to act as a temporary replacement, but Mike got innovative and used our ball locking device as a temporary pin to reattach our hitch long enough for us to be able to drive to a store to replace it properly.
Another stroke of luck, we were only about a mile away from a U-Haul dealer who had locking pins in stock, so we were able to drive there and put a proper pin in place. The new locking pin is operated with a key and has a nice rubber boot that goes over the keyhole to protect it from getting any water and dirt inside while we're driving. That's nice, isn't it? I'll use the key. You turn it, see it pops out. The center pops out about 10 millimeters or whatever. And when it locks onto the shaft, you push the lock.
I see.
Ah, now we're learning. All right, so let me put it on there. Don't need a key to put it on. There, get it roughly in place. Push, and it's locked.
After everything was back together, we both breathed a huge sigh of relief at how lucky we were that all of this happened as it did, and that we avoided something far, far worse.
From now on, we will be adding a few more things to our checklist before leaving any public areas, knowing that there are some people out there who may try to sabotage RVs. All we can do is hope that the person who did this to us gets some serious help.
And that by sharing our experiences, you guys can stay safer as well. Until next time, we look forward to seeing you on the road.
Check out some of our other videos and subscribe to our channel.
New content will be posted weekly.